Day. We're over the hump day.
Nag-normalize na talaga. May mga rally na.
Oo, meron na. Meron.
Normal talaga, sa UP talaga ginawa.
Sa UP talaga. And I think a group and a lot of them marched to the Commission on Human Rights, which is still within the UP Diliman campus, as we know.
At may social distancing, di ba?
May social distancing.
Meron ba? Parang kulang.
Hindi masyado.
Kahit pa paano, hindi sila kumpul-kumpul.
Maraming nag-attend. I mean, ganun karami. So much so na there was, hindi siya yung social distancing na alam natin. No? So,
baka mabanggit mamaya, we're waiting again for President Duterte. May announcement daw again tonight.
Uy, nakakagulat yung hindi nila sinertify as urgent
Bayanihan
yung
Part 2
ng bayanihan. Pero yung kay terror bill, urgent
Baka may sabihin
that was certified long ago pa, di ba? Parang ano na yun eh.
Although mukhang hindi naman naabot talaga yung hindi talaga abot yung bayanihan Part 2 kasi I think in Congress nasa committee level pa eh. In the Senate, they could have rushed it through the third reading if they wanted to, if it was certified. Pero sa lower chamber, it's still wala pa sa plenary.
Totoo ba yun? Walang pondo? Walang pondo.
Wala na daw pera.
Oo, 130 billion, hindi kaya. Wow, that's alarming.
But it also raises some questions kasi they were supposed to put aside 270 billion with Bayanihan Part 1. And of that, 200 billion was supposed to be for the social amelioration. They've only released half of that, 101.5 billion for month 1.
Hindi ko sa Q&A ninyo, parang na-release na nga yung second tranche. Kaya nga nakuubos. Yung 300
but I wondered I also wonder about that kasi they couldn't have released it to the LGUs not knowing yet how many beneficiaries there are and who they are supposed to give to. So without knowing who to give to, you cannot calculate how much to give the LGUs
Saka ang dami pang mga funding priority ngayon, pati education nanghihingi ngayon ng pera for the blended learning.
Yeah.
Blended learning. Kasi pag hindi mag-e-enroll yung karamihan daw sa mga anong ipambabayad nila sa mga gadget na kailangan or whatever is needed for just to adjust to this new normal in education. So ang dami ng mga pondong kailangan nila. Pati sa health, pa rin tayo.
And that's really the balance, that's the dilemma confronting us, di ba? Parang yung the question of when do we shift from treating this purely as a public health concern to everything that society needs to get going again. So talagang kumakalat na it's being spread very thin.
Yes, it is. It is. And you don't know
anyway, ang certify na urgent yung anti-terror bill na certify. So,
so kailan kaya siya mapipirmahan? Will it be signed this week or for next week?
Magkakaroon doon ng final review si Presidente.
Oo nga pala, may ilang umatras pero ilan lang may ilang umatras ng boto doon sa Kongreso. As of 6:30, what we knew of was at least 5 people who withdrew their yes. Of course, it's really not going to make any difference.
The numbers are too overwhelming.
Pero yun, naramdaman nila kahit paano yung nangyayari. And marami nag-explain ng votes even though they voted yes with reservations sila. They wanted to explain their votes because of the backlash. But it's still a yes vote pa rin.
Actually, I've spoken to some lawyers who were a bit not concerned. They are concerned, but they were also a bit surprised given the overwhelming vote in the House of Representatives, the support, the certification that this is an urgent bill. Nagugulat nga sila na, bakit hindi na lang automatic? That's what people were assuming. Anyway, dun din naman papunta to. In a way, this is already slower than what they were expecting.
Well, the Senate deployed later today si Senator Panfilo Lacson, who was a sponsor of the bill sa Senate, na pinasa pa noong February actually.
Yes.
And he was explaining, he had an extensive explanation for it and reassuring everyone na ito patterned after Australia, similar laws in Australia and the US. And ang pagkakaintindi ko yung even the first Human Security Act, it was patterned after UK laws that were passed after terrorist attacks in the UK. So medyo baka pwede nating tanungin itong mga guests natin for tonight kung anong masasabi nila, kung paano talaga ito makakatulong sa fight against terrorism at kumusta na nga yung fight natin yun ngayon.
Okay, let's bring in our first guest, the former governor of the ARMM and now congressman representing Basilan Province, Mujib Hataman. Sir, good evening and thank you for joining us tonight.
Ay, good evening.
Sir.
Lahat sa inyo, hindi ko na
Good evening po.
Yes, sir. Assalamualaikum po.
Good evening,
Sir,
po.
Yes.
Sir, proponents ng mga of the bill are arguing that this bill is the answer, at least part of the answer to fight terrorism, like what happened dun sa Marawi and in many parts of what used to be ARM, and it is now BARM. Pero we also noticed that several representatives from these areas that were supposed to benefit from this new anti-terror bill voted no. Among them, you and si Congressman Balindong ng Marawi. Well, tell us, sir, about it. What do you see in the bill that could have helped, but in the end made you vote against it, and what would you have wanted to change?
Ed, actually, ito nga ang tanong natin. Halimbawa, noong 2007, nung ipinasa yung Human Security Act. Human Security Act of 2007. Alam natin ang context nung pinasa na yon. Talagang kahit saang sulok ng Pilipinas, pwedeng maghasik ng lagim ang Abu Sayyaf at yung mga kaanib nilang international terrorists. And in fact, halimbawa, yung Rizal Day bombing, di ba? Si Algozi. Tapos mga ilang pagsabog sa Metro Manila, sa Davao, sa Cotabato at saan-saan. No? Yun yung height nung lakas ng mga terorista. Pero itong bago ako, kaya nga nung interpellation ko kay Rufy Biason, dahil later umatras si Rufy kasi nga sa interpellation at discussions na namin, dahil tinanong natin, Ed, no, kung ano yung difference ng Human Security Act noong 2007, then after 13 years nababaguhin natin. Nagkaroon ba ng evaluation, ng assessment, lumakas ba ang terorista or humina ang terorista? Pero ang lagi nating sinasabi, even during the height ng Marawi siege, matapos mapatay sila Isnilon pati yung Mautet, sinasabi natin humihina na sila. Pero bakit ngayon lalo nating pinalakas yung anti-terrorism law at the expense ng rights and dignity, or to the point na meron tayong, even to the point na very clear yung danger sa rights ng individual, pati yung constitutional infirmity niya. And in fact, sa katunayan, even during the debate sa Congress, even si Congressman Lagman, yung ilan pa, hindi naka-interpolate, hindi natin binibigyan ng pagkakataon. But anyway, Ed, para ako personally, kung bakit ako umayaw, dahil in our experience, in my personal experience, dahil magdadalawang dekada na rin ang pagpundar ng Abu Sayyaf at operation sa Basilan, talagang humina siya. Pero ako sa totoo lang, hindi siya humina dahil sa military offensive lang. Hindi siya humina dahil meron tayong matibay na batas laban sa terorismo. Pero ang nagpahina dito, yung pagtutulungan ng komunidad, ng security forces, ng local government, at nagbukas tayo ng window natin. Dahil nung panahon ni Pangulong Duterte, bigla siyang nagbukas. O kayong mga Abu Sayyaf dyan, pwede kayong sumuko. Kasi nung una kasi walang ganong clear policy from the national government. Sabihin natin walang policy na nakasulat, pero mismo ang presidente, pag upao kayong mga Abu Sayyaf, pwede kayong lumabas. Pwede kayong magbago. Dahil dati-rati, takot tayo sa Amerika, dahil meron silang policy, itong Abu Sayyaf ay international terrorist na. Pero nung binukas to at nakipag-coordinate at nagbago yung strategy ng ating security forces at nag-coordinate sa local government, yung mga basic social services binigay natin sa mga komunidad, lalong-lalo na sa mga lugar kung saan malakas ang Abu Sayyaf tulad ng Albarca, biglang nagbago ang lahat. In fact, wala pang 2 years nung nilunsad natin nung panahon kong ARM Regional Governor, naglunsad tayo ng program against violent extremism, hindi punitive action, kung hindi encouragement for them to go down para mag-participate doon sa community affair, talagang more than 200 sa kanila. At yan yung key talaga na bumaba yung terror attack at mangilan-ngilan na lang talaga ang kumikilos dito sa Basilan. Kaya yun yung
Yes, sir.
point ko. Dito sa anti-terrorism law, halimbawa, isipin natin, in-strengthen natin yung kapangyarihan ng law enforcement. Inagaw natin ang kapangyarihan ng korte para ibigay sa mga political appointee na para sila ang mag-designate kung sino ang terorista. Kahit suspect ka lang. Eh alam naman ho natin sa karanasan natin, Ed, ma'am, no? Ako personally, kahit kayo nasa media kayo, alam nyo, every time na merong pagsabog sa kahit saang sulok ng ating bansa, laging pumapasok sa utak ng individual at ng ating security forces ay Muslim ang gumagawa.
Opo.
Kung talagang lumaki halimbawa ang issue, para magsara lang ang usapin, biglang mang-aresto tayo at sabihin natin, ang bomber ay naaresto na natin.
Sir, so if I may, sir, are you saying that we do not need a new anti-terror act, or are you saying simply that we need to revise the bill as it is and institute major changes for safeguards?
Una, kailangan natin ibalik ang safeguard. Pero ako kasi, Ed, ma'am, ang mahalaga rito sa atin, dapat magkaroon tayo ng preventive measure. Hindi yung punitive parang policies. No, parang wala na bang panahon o paraan. Okay lang magkaroon tayo ng punitive policies, pero dapat merong stronger version na policy na pwede silang magbagong buhay. O di kaya hikayatin natin, iparating natin ang serbisyo. Baka mamaya ang problema ay mismo sa atin sa loob ng gobyerno. Patunayan natin na kasama sila, dapat inclusive yung mga policies natin sa lahat at walang iniit sa puwera.
So yung ginawa nila na pag-extend ng kamay sa Abu Sayyaf, no? Are you saying that that's a preventive measure? And if so, at sinabi nyo rin na parang nabawasan na ngayon yung terror threat, sa tingin ninyo, sino kaya ang tinatarget na terror group nitong anti-terror act na to? Kung hindi na Abu Sayyaf.
Honestly, hindi ko rin alam. Kasi ako personally, hindi masyadong malalim ang pag-unawa ko sa national politics. Pero kung terorista rin man, based sa current definition at based sa mga experiences natin at sa declaration even ng UN Security Council at ng ating bansa, ay Abu Sayyaf lang ang alam ko. Kaya binebase ko yung experience ko at ang experience ng mga ilan dito sa aming probinsya, based doon kung ano yung experience. Remember, ma'am, sir, no? Ewan ko kung 2006 or 2007, nung nag-declare ng state of lawlessness sa Basilan, di ba? Talagang maraming nahuli. Nilagay natin sa bikutan. Pero ang tanong ko, nagbago ba sa mga panahon na yon ang threat? Lalong lumakas. Dahil ako, naniniwala ako, habang sinisiil natin ang karapatan ng isang pamilya at habang merong naiiwan na anak, lalong nasasaktan, naging vulnerable sila doon sa pag-recruit ng mga terorista. Kaya dapat inclusive yung mga policies natin sa lahat.
Pero halimbawa, ISIS, don't you consider the ISIS a threat? Because I'm sure yan ang gagamitin nila ngayon na basehan, diba?
Ako, personally, hindi, ganito ma'am, no, ilagay natin. May threat ng terrorism kasi andyan yung Abu Sayyaf, do humina dito sa Basilan, merang remnants ng Maute sa Lanao del Sur, tapos andyan yung BIFF sa Maguindanao, andyan yung Abu Sayyaf sa Sulu. Pero ang sinasabi ko, kung ikumpara at ihambing ang sitwasyon noon at ngayon, mas matindi ang threat noon. Pangalawa, at yung mga panahon na yun, buhay pa sila Bin Laden. Buhay pa sila sinotong sa Iraq na ISIS. Pero ngayon, wala na sila. Sinasabi natin sila Zarqawi, patay na. Si Abdurrajak, patay na. Lahat ng mga founder ng Abu Sayyaf halos patay na. Ang tanong ko, bakit hindi At sinasabi rin natin, after nung namatay ang Maute brothers, pati si Isnilon Hapilon, talagang paubos na yung threat ng terrorism sa ating bansa na
Congressman,
pinapangunahan ng Abu Sayyaf.
Kaya nga tinatanong ko
Congressman,
rin, sino kayang tina-target? I guess, no? Kasi
Ma'am,
kung
ako, sinasabi ko,
tayo,
merong
sino
threat,
kaya
no? Kasi ayoko rin sabihin na walang threat. Ang sinasabi ko lang ho sa ngayon, kumpara sa mga nakaraan, mas matindi ang panganib at pangamba natin noon kumpara sa kasalukuyan.
Congressman Robbie Alampay po, no.
Ay,
I
Robbie.
just want you to expound on another aspect na nabanggit niyo po. Sinabi niyo nga na itong sitwasyon ngayon na nakikita niyo na humina and so on, nahikayat ang mga ibang tao na bumaba, magbalik loob, mamuhay na magbagong buhay and so on. And sinabi niyo, hindi naman yung batas ang nag-udyok dyan eh. Hindi naman yung batas ang naghikayat dyan na mamayapa at magbagong buhay. So on the one hand, you're saying that was not necessarily the law that did good. But I want to ask, can the law do harm? Is there anything in the anti-terror law that can actually aggravate the situation?
Actually, ako, ang analysis ko ho at basa ko, based sa comprehension ko sa proposed law na to, baka lalong magpapalakas at magbibigay tayo ng rason para lumakas sila. Kaya nga ang sinasabi ko, baka yung policy na dapat natin ibalangkas sa Kongreso, hindi yung pagtuunan natin ng pansin yung punitive aspect ng policy, kung hindi yung prevention aspect. Halimbawa, binabanggit to na napanood ko rin, na nabanggit nyo kanina na pinattern to sa Australia. Ako, nung inimbita ako ng Australian government, nung armed governor ako, nakita ko doon, kahit meron silang punitive aspect na policy, malakas ang kanilang prevention aspect. At kino-concretize nila yung prevention aspect nila sa mga programa na inclusive na nakikinabang ang lahat. Even sa Malaysia, ganun din ho. Even sa Singapore, ganun din ho. So ang tingin ko...
Kung ipagpalagay po natin na merong investment at merong pondo at resources and there's a real push on that side, on the prevention side. Sabihin natin related but separate program for a peace program. Will that mitigate yung concerns nyo sa anti-terror law? In other words, can we leave the anti-terror law as is, as long as we have a good preventive program?
Tama po, kasi yun nga ang sinasabi ko, pinagsama natin yung, kumbaga, dapat combination ng punitive and at the same time yung prevention. Pero sa ngayon, halimbawa, ako, honestly, mas nakukumbinsi na ako sa prevention. Kasi naging success story yan dito sa Basilan. Halimbawa ho, sa 200 na nagbalik loob, nung ini-interview natin ang ilan, nasa 50% ho, ang rason ng mga yan, wala kaming magawa kasi naghihirap kami. Nasa 30% ho, hindi rin naman kami edukado, dumaan ang Abu Sayyaf. Tapos later, dahil napapabayaan sila ng gobyerno, naging vulnerable sila doon sa indoctrination ng Abu Sayyaf. Sa totoo lang, mga nasa 1 to 2% lang ang ideologue ng Abu Sayyaf. Lalo na ngayon, wala na si Abdurrajak Janjalani, wala na si Gaddafi Janjalani, wala na sila Isnilon Hapilon, wala na yung mga Maute. So tingin ko, even yung ideologue nila, talagang matibay dahil sa paniniwala nila nawawala. Pero sa totoo lang, ang karamihan dito sa nagbalik loob, nasa 80 to 90% ho, hindi yan dahil sa paniniwala nila, sa proseso na lang na indoctrinate yung paniniwala nila at nahikayat sila ng mga programa ng ating pamahalaan.
Congressman, maganda na na-consolidate nyo yung gains nung counter-terrorism program, yung both military and development side. Pero ang sinasabi naman ng mga proponent niya, kapara nila Ping Lacson, the threat will always be there. Saka nangyari na daw yan in the past na bumaba yung threat, tapos bumalik. They're comparing it to ang Hydra. No? Kahit mawala yung sila Janjalani, nawala na yung mga yung mga dating commander, sila Commander Robot, lagi nagkakaroon ng panibago and they're worried daw, yun ang sinasabi nila, that na kapag hindi nilakasan yung mga punitive aspect, baka bumalik na naman yan. Kasi sa Sulu, nandun pa sila sa Hiron, meron pa rin mga pwede sila consolidate. How real is this fear? May basis ba to na bumalik siya at lumakas uli? Kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng parang ganyan mga cycle eh. Biglang, eto na naman, nagkikidnapping na naman. Tumigil na nga yung Sayap and then they teamed up with the Maute and then we got Marawi. The government keeps talking about Marawi in defending this bill. How likely is it na mangyayari na naman, siguro not on the same scale, pero how likely is it na babalik na naman yung threat na ito?
Ma'am, ako, convinced naman talaga ako ang threat ay nariyan. Habang meron sa taas at habang merong naniniwala sa paniniwala at sa ideolohiya nila, na andyan talaga yung threat na yan. Pero nga ang sinasabi ko, eto ma'am, una, nung naging matagumpay yung programa halimbawa sa Basilan, kahit magtanong ho tayo, halimbawa since 2012, pwede rin siguro imbitahin natin halimbawa as resource person, si General Galvez, yung dating Chief of Staff, na naging Brigade Commander na nagsimula nung partnership namin noon dito sa Basilan as Brigade Commander. Nung pumalit si General Bautista, yung DSWD Secretary. Ang sinasabi ko lang, ma'am, inuulit ko, hindi ko sinasabi wala threat. Andyan yung threat. Pero ako ho, sa totoo lang, bakit naging matagumpay ang programa sa Basilan, yung prevention aspect? Wala yung panukalang batas na ito. At nariyan yung Human Security Act of 2007. Ang tanong ko nga ho, even during my interpellation, ano ba yung assessment natin? Hindi ba naging effective ang batas o merong problema sa pagpapatupad ng batas? Or merong kulang sa policies natin? Kasi sa totoo lang, yung Human Security Act of 2007, ang focus nun ay punitive. Wala hong programa, kahit balikan natin yung nakaraan, parang sariling sikap na lang ng lokal na pamahalaan at ng autonomous region at that time na gumawa ng programa, naisip na lang yon ng mga sundala at local government. At naging successful yung programa na yon. Kaya nga ang tanong ko, parang kung naging matagumpay ito, wala yung current proposed law, anong dahilan para bigyan pa natin ng malawak na kapangyarihan at inaagaw natin yung ilang kapangyarihan ng independenteng individual katulad ng korte or institution. At ang sinasabi nga nila rin, kaya nga binabago natin, tinatanggal natin yung damyo na 500,000 dahil nga yun yung naging deterrent, kaya hindi sila nagkakaroon. Pero sa totoo lang, pag hiningian natin ang lahat ng proponent, kung meron na ba silang pag-aaral saan ang weaknesses ng batas na yon, hindi naman ho makapagsasabi. Wala rin silang masabi na kaya namin babaguhin ito dahil ganito. To the point ba, isasakripisyo natin ang karapatan ng bawat isa? I-violate natin ang basic laws ng ating bansa dahil lang gusto nating ipanis ang terorista? Hindi kaya mas lalong magbibigay ito ng bala sa mga terorista dahil inaapi natin yung ating mga kababayan sa pamamagitan ng isang pulisiya?
Kung if you don't mind, I'd like to drill into details dun sa bill. For example, yung broadening the number of days ng warrantless arrest from 3 to 14 plus 10. Ang argument ng mga
24.
proponents ng bill is 24 total bale po. Ang argument ng mga proponents ng bill is that this is necessary para matapos yung investigasyon bago madala sa korte yung mga suspect. Kayo po, from your point of view, does that make sense po or ano po?
Simple lang ang logic ko dyan. Nagbigay ho tayo ng kapangyarihan sa batas yung voice recording, di ba?
Yes.
Dahil ang sinasabi ng mga proponent, mahina ang ebidensya pagdating sa korte, kaya natatalo yung mga kaso at hindi nagagamit itong anti-terror law of 2007. Kaya dito sa panibago ay binigyan nila ng kapangyarihan na pupunta ka lang ng Court of Appeal, kahit walang hearing, magbibigay, pwede ka nang mag-surveillance, pwede ka nang mag-recording. Ano pang ebidensya ang kailangan natin? Kahit 3 days yan, kahit 1 day, or kahit isang buwan, hindi na magmamatter. Kasi nga meron ka ng kapangyarihan para mag-surveillance at mag-voice recording. Kaya ang daming inconsistency. Pangalawa, sinatanong namin, sige, kung ang problema natin ay ebidensya, bakit tayo matatakot na magkamali pa? Binigyan tayo ng kapangyarihan na mag-surveillance, bakit tatanggalin natin yung protection clause na kung magkamali ka ng pag-aresto, magbabayad ka ng 500,000 kada araw.
Araw
Alam
na
mo, dito sa
detention.
Muslim areas, inuulit ko. Di ba ang karanasan natin, even kayo sa media, every time merong bomba ang nasa isip lahat ng law enforcers, Muslim ang may gawa nito. Di ba? Tapos pagdating ng panahon
ganun ang stereotype.
Ma'am, kahit kayo, anong pumasok agad sa isip nyo? Kasi
Totoo
sa
yan.
totoo lang, nung na-conceptualize yung Human Security Act of 2007, dahil sa Muslim terrorist, hindi pa naman nagkaroon ng Christian terrorist eh. Hindi pa naman nagkaroon ng Ilocano na terrorist. Ang laging terorista ay Muslim. Kaya minsan, pag merong sumabog sa Metro Manila at biglang nag-alboroto ang sambayanan, sabihin mahina ang intel natin, bigla na lang papasok sa Maharlika, sa Quiapo, sa Tandang Sora, at manghuling ng ordinaryong Muslim, nahuli na namin ang terorista, tapos na ang kaso. Pero ang totoo nun, karamihan ay walang kamuang-muang. Kaya sa dulo ng korte, sa dulo ng kaso, hindi nagkakaroon ng, kumbaga, sabihin ng korte, walang ebidensya. Kasi totoo naman, hindi talaga totoo. Bigyan ko kayo ng halimbawa. Nung nagkaroon ng state of lawlessness sa Basilan noong 2000 something, merong isang kafgu. Part to paramilitary, nahuli, dinala sa bikutan, namatay na lang sa loob ng bikutan bago nahatulan na hindi siya Abu Sayyaf. So, yung point ko rito, kung ikaw isang Muslim, sana maintindihan ng mga nakikinig dahil yun naman talaga. At yun yung nangyayari ngayon. Pag sinabi mo, wala pa akong nakitang terorista na hindi Muslim maliban sa balik Islam, Muslim na rin yun na inaakusahan natin. So yun yung fear, yun yung nakakatakot. Kaya ako, dito sa panukalang batas na to, binigyan ka ng kapangyarihan ng voice recording. Magpunta ka lang ng CA kahit walang kaso, suspect ka lang. Pangalawa, tinanggal mo yung protection clause na 500,000 kung magkamali ka. Dahil ang sinasabi nila, magiging deterrent daw ito sa pag-aaresto ng suspect. Bakit ka mga aresto kung hindi ka sigurado? Samantala, binigyan ka ng voice check. Bakit ka mag-warrantless arrest? Bakit ka pa magkukulong ng tao ng 24 na araw? Meron ka na, binigyan ka ng leeway para magkuha ng ebidensya.
Congressman, idagdag ko na rin po dyan, total na hapyawan nyo na rin. Yung Anti-Terrorism Council, speak to us as somebody who's as a local executive, as somebody who knows yung realidad dito sa bansang to and how things play out in reality on the ground. How do you imagine the Anti-Terrorism Council moving, and what is its implications for this entire scenario?
And the composition of the ATC.
Yeah. Ito ang pinag-uusapan natin yung current bill, yung current law.
Yes.
Yung Human Security Act of 2020.
2007.
Okay.
2020 to 2007.
Kayo,
ito po, yung sa
anti-terror.
ito po,
sa 2020, sa 2007, ang kapangyarihan ng pag-designate dapat mag-file ka sa korte, di ba ho?
Yes.
Pero sa current sa 2020, ang pwedeng mag-designate yung Anti-Terrorism Council. So halimbawa ho, hindi ko nating pag-uusapan yung current setup or yung current administration sa mga darating na panahon or pwede rin ngayon. Isipin nyo ang lahat ng sa Anti-Terrorism Council ay political appointee. Di ba? So, ibig sabihin yan, kung mag-usap-usap lang mga yan na gusto ng hari nila o kung sino ang head nila, appointing authority nila, dapat itong tao na to, basbasan nyo na siya ay terorista or grupo na to ay siya ay terorista. Pwedeng gawin. Dahil naman, siyempre, ang appointing authority mo ang magsasabi. Ang iniiwasan ho natin dito, dapat ang pag-designate at pagtag na magbigay ng authority, ibibigay ng otoridad, ay hindi doon sa mga in-appoint sa politika. Kung hindi, tama na ho yung korte. Dahil kahit papaano ang korte, mga abogado, at least, kumbaga, naghahanap ng ebidensya. at hindi napupolitize. Yung, though minsan meron, pero at least ho, hindi ganon yung sitwasyon.
Mhm. Well, Congressman Hataman, before we let you go, I'd like to go back to something you mentioned earlier. Speak to us about the changes in Basilan in the last 7 to 10 years. The last time I was there last year, talagang ang laki ng pagkakaiba, not just in infrastructure but also in governance. In remote areas, you suddenly feel that there really is a government, a local government unit that seems to be there present, which is not there before, mga 10 years,
Tama,
15 years ago. Anong nagbago? Ano yung, kasi kanina you were talking about changes that did not require legislation. You're talking about changes
Actually,
that only required action dun sa LGU level.
alam mo, Ed, itong experience natin, nung naging congressman nga ako, nag-file ako ng batas. No? Actually, nakabinbin pa sa committee yung batas. Ito yung Program Against Violent Extremism Act sana. But anyway, sagutin ko yung tanong mo. Una, babalikan ko. Dahil kinonsolidate natin ang lahat ng stakeholders, yung civil society organization, yung community, yung LGU, yung security forces, nagbuo to. Kaya nga, merong programa rito na tinatawag sa Basilan, yung Program Against Violent Extremism, na una inintroduce ng armed government before at nag-pilot project ito sa Basilan at naging successful. Nagbibigay tayo ng housing project doon sa mga individual, nagbibigay tayo ng scholarship, ng mga livelihood. Tapos ang pinakaki pa rin talaga rito, yung security forces pati yung lokal na pamahalaan. Kasi ako, naniniwala ako kung functional yung local government, maganda yung coordination with security forces, mag-function yung government apparatus sa isang lokalidad, lahat ng serbisyo ay makakarating sa tao, lahat ng development ay andyan, may pera tayo, sigurado ako magbabago ang isip ng tao. At yan po ang experience dito sa Basilan.
Congressman, isa na lang, of course it helped that the BA BARM was set up. And it was led by the MILF, which used to be one of the threat groups in Basilan.
Yeah.
Tama po.
Tama po.
Tumahimik.
Pero ma'am, ang MILF kasi sa Basilan, inuulit ko, yung mga panahon nagdaang dekada kasi, talagang ang dominant force dito is Abu Sayyaf. So ang programa, talagang nilalaan natin paano makumbinsi, ma-encourage na tumigil sila sa kagagawan nila. In fact, even yung religious sector, kasama talaga rito dahil halimbawa may lumalabas, kumbaga part ng psychosocial process sa kanila, yung religious indoctrination na tama na binibigay ng mga religious sector. So ngayon, meron tayong BARM, at least na-address natin ang problema sa MILF. Pero sa totoo lang, ang sitwasyon ng transition, alam naman natin kung ano yung magiging itsura niya. Pero at the end of the day, kung functional yung security forces natin, maging inclusive, pati yung local government, may klarong direction sa buhay at sa pamamahala, sigurado po ako, mas effective yan kaysa sa gagawa tayo ng policy na mas punitive yung action niya. Ako, ang recommendation ko nga ho dyan, mas pagtuunan natin yung Program and Counter Violent Extremism or Program Against Violent Extremism kaysa yung punitive policies na nililikha natin. Dahil I am sure magkikreate lang tayo ng more enemies than friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ang laking bagay talaga sa yung LGU, di ba? Pag
malaking bagay.
What it boils down to
security
LGU
forces,
talaga
malaking
yung
bagay.
issue.
Ako, ang LGU and at the same time, yung mga commanders ng security forces natin, dapat yung framework nila, papasok sila doon sa mga bagong strategies na hindi lang ang nasa utak nila.
Mm-hmm. Okay, maraming salamat po si Congressman Mujib Hataman, dating ARMM Governor.
Maraming salamat po.
Sir, shukran
maraming
po.
Salamat po sa pagkakataon. Maraming salamat sa inyo.
Thank you.
Thank you po. We will just go into a gap, so please stay with us.
Welcome back to this special episode of The Chiefs. And now joining us to discuss the anti-terror bill is Professor Romel Banlawi, who chairs the Philippine Institute for Peace, Violence, and Terrorism Research. Professor, welcome to The Chiefs.
Good evening to everyone. Good evening.
Kasama po natin si Ed Lingao, si Lucy Cruz
Ed.
Valdez, and
Hi, sir.
Rob Alampay.
Hi, sir.
Okay. Tatanungin po namin kayo,
Yes,
we're
good evening.
you've read the bill, the bill on the controversial bill on the anti-terror bill na sinertify ni Presidente na urgent. Ano po bang tingin niyo dito? Will it help? Since your institute is involved in peace, violence, terrorism, will it help reduce terrorism or will it actually foment more extremist violence?
It depends po yan. It depends. The intention of the anti-terrorism law is really to counter terrorist threats in the Philippines. And the need to have this law is also our obligation as sovereign states and as a member of the United Nations, because all states experiencing terrorist problems are required by the members of the United Nations to come out with anti-terrorism legislation. In fact, we complied with that in 2007 by passing the Human Security Act, which requires strict observance of protection of human rights. Unfortunately, that law is in fact discouraging law enforcement to apply it because of the 500,000 pesos per
Yes,
day penalty for wrongful arrest.
Saka yung
Okay. So dalawang viewpoints po yan, no? On the one hand, critics will say the 500,000 is actually a prevention mechanism against abuse. On the other hand, supporters will say that it's not, it's keeping the law from being effective. So, saan po kayo dyan?
So
Where do you stand?
we try to remedy the situation because we really need to have legislation, a law that will strengthen the capabilities of our law enforcement to counter terrorism. So what we did prior to the drafting of the law, we were consulted, the UP College of Law organized a study group to examine all the ramifications of the Human Security Act of 2007 and the need to come out with a better law. So this is our proposal. So we removed the 500,000 penalty, but how can we deter law enforcement from abusing their powers? So the proposed anti-terrorism law, as stated in Senate Bill 1083 and House Bill 6875, okay, we will remove the 500,000 pesos per day penalty, but we have to ensure that there are enough safeguards for human rights protections inside the new anti-terrorism law. So what are these human rights protection? First, on the request of the law enforcement to extend the period of preventive detention from 3 days to 14 days. So we did a research on that. Where is 14-day preventive detention period coming from? So sa pag-aaral namin, this 14-day preventive detention period came from the best practice of Australia, 14 days. But there are other practices. In Malaysia, indefinite yung period ng kanilang preventive detention. In Indonesia, almost 1 year yung kanilang preventive detention. So we examine how about the United States. In the United States, almost indefinite din kasi they have the law enforcement has the authority to detain suspected terrorists as long as there is an ongoing war on terror. So ongoing yon. So we find those practices not palatable to Filipinos. So we propose the Australian model of 14 days, which is a practice in a democratic country. So within that 14 days, to ensure that our law enforcement will not abuse themselves in power, one, the suspect will be given the right to remain silent until a lawyer is made available. And if the terrorist suspect cannot afford a lawyer, then the Anti-Terrorism Council or the arresting officer or the uh, law enforcement authorities have to provide free legal assistance through the Integrated Bar of the Philippines or from the free legal assistance ayun yung natin sa free legal assistance group or from the government. But the issue here is to provide a lawyer. And during the time of preventive detention, law enforcement officers are discouraged to use torture to get information. And if,
Professor,
yeah,
Pero sir, aren't these all
Professor, if you
already
don't
in
mind,
place? You don't need a new law for this?
if you don't mind, Professor, I failed to make the connection. On the one hand, you said we will take away the disincentive from law enforcers. Hindi na sila matatakot kasi wala na yung 500,000 na penalty if it's a wrongful arrest and so on. And then you said, pero naglagay naman tayo ng ibang safeguards. And the safeguards, as you said, is yung Miranda rights nandyan pa rin, which as Ed and Lucia pointed out, matagal na naman nandyan. It's really there. Right counsel, they have the right to do that. That's nothing new.
Correct.
Pero it totally brings us past the first question. You just took away the incentive. You took away the incentive for law enforcers to do a proper job. And yung attending to the rights of the suspect does not in any way disincentivize any potential abuses by the police or the military. So again, it goes back to the question, how does taking away the 500,000 penalty for, I mean, just focusing on that, how does taking away the 500,000 penalty on a wrongful arrest help this cause and assure the people that we have enough safeguards here?
And not only that, may I add first before you answer, no? That while you took away that disincentive, you gave them something that's alarming, which is pwede na mag-wiretap, di ba? Pwede nang mag-freeze ng accounts. Ang daming pwedeng gawin by a mere request from the Court of Appeals. So, how does that safeguard the suspect?
Let me answer first the disincentive from law enforcement. If they violated all the rights of the suspect during preventive detention, then they can be charged of violating human rights. And if proven guilty, the arresting officers can be in prison for 10 years. So that's the
Professor, let me qualify.
That.
Yeah, but Professor, let me qualify that very quickly. Under the Human Security Act, nandun na rin yung penalty. In fact, in this penalty, it's lower. Yes. It used to be a maximum of 12 years. We lowered it to a maximum of 10 years. Isn't that true?
Yeah, but the problem is with the existing, this is the dilemma of law enforcement. They did not want to apply the Human Security Act of 2007. And because of that, it's hindering law enforcement to really counter terrorism. So that's the main reason.
Professor, let's get this.
Kasi sir, in the end, it almost sounds like we're granting all these extraordinary powers to government, and in exchange, government is just restating the rights already provided for and guaranteed by the Constitution. So there's really no quid pro quo. There's nothing that we're getting as guarantees against this abuse of these powers. It's just a restatement of what we already have.
The dilemma of law enforcement is that under Human Security Act of 2007 and under existing criminal law, they cannot counter terrorism. They can counter ordinary crimes like arson or kidnapping or murder or homicide, but they cannot charge individuals from committing terrorist acts. And that is why they need this kind of law to criminalize acts of terrorism and put to justice terrorists wreaking havoc in our society. So that's the main
But
idea
isn't the
behind
question-
this anti-terrorism law. Because
Yeah,
without an anti-terrorism law, you can just apply ordinary criminal laws. But there are situations where applications of ordinary criminal laws cannot put terrorists to justice.
but
Professor,
isn't the- Yeah, go ahead.
Professor, 2 points. 2 points there. One is what Attorney Mel said yesterday, which also touches on what you said, which is that precisely you already have existing criminal laws that can actually be used for a lot of these things already, as especially as it widens the definition of terrorism. Now it actually blurs the line between common crimes and terroristic acts. That's one. But
Yes.
the other thing is, let me just acknowledge what you're saying para makafocus po tayo dun sa tanong namin. Let's leave the question as to whether or not there is a need to help our law enforcers. We acknowledge that point in the law, that the intention here is to also give our law enforcers everything that they need to counter terrorism, which is also evolving and which is also very dynamic and hard to keep up with. Tapos na po tayo doon. Kaya nga po, ang tanong lang namin is, what happens to the safeguards? Because as you've said, the safeguards have not only been weakened, they have actually been taken out. Yeah, they have been taken out in certain respects. So the question is, andyan na yung kailangan ng law enforcers, what do we do on the side of anong kailangan para pangalagaan ang human rights?
Well, the proposed anti-terrorism law empowers the Commission on Human Rights to be part of the whole process. It's in the Senate bill and in the House of Representative bill, which are in fact identical bills. So if you will read the content of the anti-terrorism bill, it empowers the Commission on Human Rights and even the existing courts, regional trial courts, to create special anti-terrorism courts in order to speed up the trial of suspected terrorists. So
Okay, here then
that's
is a
enough.
key question. Who will compose the Anti-Terrorism Council? Will a CHR person be there? Kasi,
Yes.
kumbaga,
The
sila yung
commission on-
nagde-designate, di ba, ng kung
Yes,
sino ang terrorist. Pero
Correct.
sino sila is the question. That's a crucial component.
Yeah,
of
the members of the Anti-Terrorism Council will involve the Commission on Human Rights, but it is chaired by the Executive Secretary, and members include the security sectors, the Department of National Defense, Department of Foreign Affairs, Department of Interior and Local Government, and all other related agencies of the national government identified under the law. So
Who will appoint?
the Commission on Human Rights is there.
Who will appoint? Will they not be political
members
appointees?
of the
How do we know
ATC
that they will be independent?
Yeah, members of ATC, of course, are appointed by the president, because the executive secretary is appointed by the president, and all members of the ATCs are cabinet secretaries appointed by the president. And the Commission of Human Rights is, in fact, a constitutional commission. So it's there, unless they dissolve the Commission on Human Rights.
Professor,
And that's very alarming already.
Professor, you acknowledge that the nature
Sir, are we certain about that, sir, that the CHR is part of the ATC? Kasi if I recall correctly,
I'm
yung ATC is
reading
only
it.
made out of 9 members, and that already includes the Secretary of Interior, Secretary of Defense, Executive
Foreign
Secretary,
Affairs.
the National Security Advisor, Foreign Affairs. So I
Foreign
don't
Affairs,
know
DICT.
if the CHR really
Yeah,
is
no
part of
problem.
the ATC.
I will reread the composition of the Anti-Terrorism
Sige, sir.
Council, but I'm very, very sure that under Senate Bill 1083 and House Bill 6875, the role of the Commission of Human Rights is very, very crucial to ensure appropriate protection of the human rights of suspected terrorists, and to make sure that the due process of law is observed. That's what I understand about the law. But the reason why I am supporting this anti-terrorism bill, because compared to Human Security Act of 2007, there is one important provision in the new anti-terrorism bill that was mentioned earlier by former Governor Hataman, and that is the provision on countering and preventing violent extremism. because in this provision, it requires the Philippine government to address the underlying conditions conducive for the spread of terrorism, but without necessarily using these underlying conditions to justify acts of terrorism. And what are these underlying conditions? Religious, ethnic, national discrimination, even promoting good governance, and improving the justice system. So all these things are being addressed. So I think if the government will emphasize in implementing anti-terrorism law on that provision, it can in fact help prevent acts of terrorism. And that is why I am supporting it, because of that very important provision, the countering and preventing violent extremism, as well as other provisions that requires counter-terrorism cooperation with other countries and capacity building for security sectors, so that they will be responsible and accountable in the performance of their duties.
Okay. Professor, let me just jump in very quickly para lang malinaw. The Anti-Terrorism Council, as you said, is going to be headed by the Executive Secretary. There will be
Correct.
8 other members of the cabinet of there. But the Commission on Human Rights, as you asserted, is not part of the ATC.
Okay.
Now, I
If
just
this is
want
not
to
part
ask,
of the ATC, no,
yeah, so I
if
just
it's
want
not
to
part of the
does
ATC,
that, because that was part of your reassurance. That is part of what you felt was reassuring.
no,
Nakasama naman na CHR dyan, there will be some safeguard there. But
no,
now that we know that that's not true, does that give you any cause, any reason for concern?
no, I think what we can do is to request inclusion of the of Human Rights in the membership of the Anti-Terrorism Council.
But this is
But there
this is
are
embedded in
provisions.
the law.
Isn't it a
But this
little
is
too
embedded
late
in the
now?
law. This is already this is the bill
Yeah.
as written, as getting ready to be approved and signed by the president.
Right.
It can be inserted if we will lobby for inclusion of the Commission of Human Rights to be a member of the Anti-Terrorism Council. Then it can be done. There's still time because it's not been signed by the president. I have to check it again, but I'm very sure that under these two bills from the Senate and the House, that the role of the Commission of Human Rights is very essential to ensure protections of suspected terrorists.
Professor,
I'm very sure of that.
Professor, considering the nature of terrorism, all over the world there's a debate about what civil liberties people can give up for personal security. I mean, since 9/11, this debate has been going on. How realistic is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it's a debate all over the
There
world.
are
It's even a debate in the democratic countries. But this is now the dilemma. If we don't have this law, how can we put terrorists to justice?
Hmm.
And then
Well,
how can we
important is
comply?
it in the context in our country? How important is it? Do we really need these types of restrictions on our civil liberties? Because this is the biggest concern about this bill, no? That masyadong marami tayong ginigive up to fight a threat na sa tingin ng mga tao hindi naman ganun katindi. Yun ang pinakamalaking kinatatakutan dito. Is that a valid fear? Considering
It's
the
a
nature
valid
of the
fear.
threat and the condition in the Philippines.
In fact, all the fears being raised by the public against this law is very essential to give a message to the Philippine government that that we are worried about this law. But at the same time, the government needs this law because it really wants to counter terrorism. Now, if this law will be abused by the government in power, because in my opinion, if we are facing a very abusive government, not accountable government, and not responsible government, then this law is also prone to become an instrument of state terrorism. That is why that's now a dilemma. We want an anti-terrorism law, but we don't want to empower our law enforcement to do its job to counter terrorism. So what do we need? We need a law. So what kind of law do we have to formulate? So from us wanting to make this law human rights conscious, then we provided inputs to the provisions that will ensure protection of human rights of victims. And if you will read the bills, the lawyer will be there, and torture will be prohibited, and the special court, the Court of Appeal, shall provide authorization for wiretapping, because wiretapping is a practice all over the world for counterterrorism. But this wiretapping is not illegal wiretapping. What the anti-terrorism law is doing is a lawful use of wiretapping process. But
Professor,
when
last na.
wiretapping,
Sir,
yeah.
Professor, that's a good point that you raised, but I also need to point this out. For example, wiretapping is should be legal. There are legitimate uses for that. There is a law about wiretapping, the anti-wiretapping law, but still wiretapping happens illegally. For example, a best example there is what happened to Gloria Arroyo in 2004.
Correct.
Diba? It really happens, and it does get abused, even though we have laws already present. Now, I understand, sir, you were saying that there is a need for an anti-terror law, but at the same time, you also said that if abused, then you also run into the problem of state terrorism, which I understand, which I suppose I mean, I suppose you can understand the concerns being raised by a lot of people here. That on one hand, you have so much power being given to the state. On the other hand, there's also the vulnerability of the people, because the state is the one that is empowered and armed by the public, and in the end, it is by default the only one with the arms.
That is why we are telling our friends in the government to fight terrorism with justice. And how can we fight terrorism with justice? First, we have to pursue intelligence reform, because our intelligence sector does not have a very good reputation in our society. So we have to reform our intelligence sector, and we also have to transform our security sector in charge of implementing this law. So if we don't have responsible and accountable intelligence sector and security sector, then this anti-terrorism bill is in fact can be used for abuse, because you empower law enforcement. That is why the anti-terrorism bill will not end by passing it. We need to undergo intelligence reform and security sector reform to ensure and even to allay fears of the public that this law will be used for abuse. Because any
Okay,
law
which
naman
begs the
if
question. Which begs the question, sir. Bakit nga ba sinacertify na urgent ito at this time? Bakit nga ba?
I'm not free to discuss any details, but I would like to make a general statement that threats of terrorism in the Philippines is real, very serious. And we can even connect it, but suddenly why the president suspends the termination of the visiting forces agreement? So I'm not in the authority to discuss details of that, but you will have to ask the proper authorities to discuss the urgency. But me researching the nature of even the dynamics of terrorist threats in the Philippines, I know I know the concern of the Philippine government. I know the concern of the law enforcement. I know the concern of the police and the military. I know that they are experiencing problem, but we are really facing a virulent threat, a serious threat. This is not imagined. This is a real threat that if not prevented quickly, then they can mount havocs anytime, because there are several active groups in the Philippines really adhering to the violent extremist ideology of the Islamic State that openly endorses the use of suicide terrorism and openly advocates violence, okay, not only against Christians, but also against fellow Muslims not adhering to their faith. And the threat is very, very serious. Okay. So if you're privy with this nature of threat, you will understand why. But I'm not in the position to discuss the details. But knowing the situation, I understand the dilemma of the law enforcement. Yeah. But also knowing the situation of the public, being a UP political science student, I know, I was once an activist in UP, but But if this law will be used against curtailment of human rights, I can assure you, you will see me on the streets, okay, shouting for the repeal of that law. But I think we need to give our law enforcement a chance to prove itself. But at the same time, let us continue airing our sentiments, let's continue airing our worries, our anxieties about this bill, and make our government prove itself. You know, if the government will use this law against our people, then the people has the power, and the government only gets its power from the people. And we have demonstrated that in 1986. We have demonstrated that in 2001. But we cannot. For me, as a scholar focusing on terrorism issue, under our current law, it's really difficult to counter terrorism if we will just use our existing law, the Human Security Act of 2007, and even our existing criminal laws. It's very difficult. Terrorists will laugh at us. I'll cite you an example. There were several cases where we arrested terrorists, but we can only suspected terrorists, but we can only hold them for 3 days. But after 3 days, we released them for lack of sufficient evidence, only to find out that they went to Marawi to mount the siege. So those are the cases that this law intends to prevent.
Okay, sir. Pahabulan, sir. Are you saying that yung suspension ng termination ng VFA is because of an immediate on the horizon threat? I mean a very immediate threat, not a conceptual long-term threat of terrorism, but you see something right in the horizon?
In my opinion, because I'm not in the authority to say that,
yes,
but
sir.
In my opinion, it has relationship because with the suspension of the termination of the visiting force agreement, we can ask assistance from the United States to resume its counterterrorism training with us and counterterrorism advice and send their troops again for purposes of counterterrorism.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Professor Romel Banlawi, the chairman of the Philippine Institute for Peace, Violence, and Terrorism Research. Professor, always a pleasure to have you with us. Maraming salamat po for your insights and your valuable time.
But let us
Thank
be
you very much, sir.
vigilant about this
Yes, sir.
and continue being an oversight of our law enforcement.
Yes, sir. Maraming salamat po, Professor Banlawi.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
And that will be all for this edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm Ed Lingao for News.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News.